What's up? It's Guru Jojo, and in this video, I'm going to be speaking about retrograde planets, the meaning of metro. I almost said retrograde. Retrograde planets, and yeah, like a different perspective basically on them. Before I get into that, I'm going to mention that I'm taking a little break with the astro psychology videos because my live streams, I don't know what's wrong with them, and I'm not in the mood to be trying to look into that right now. So yes. Anything else? New moons in Cancer, which is cool right now. I mean, yeah, new moon, solar eclipses in Cancer. I have a moon in Cancer natally, so I'm a little overwhelmed at the moment. But anyways, boom. So in astrology, retrograde planets have the symbol RX next to them. And it's interesting because this is obviously the prescription symbol, and there's a reason for this. Basically, the prescription symbol RX, it comes from the planet Jupiter, the symbol of Jupiter. That's why the symbols actually kind of look similar. I'll probably took away all the light. I'll probably put it someplace around here. So Jupiter, right, represents benefits, it represents gifts, it represents to receive benefits. And a prescription is supposed to be a recipe of benefits. You're hoping that you're going to be able to take that, whatever that recipe is, whether it's like a meditation, whether it's an actual physical prescription, like a traditional prescription that we expect to receive from our doctor, and then we go to the pharmacy and pick up. Regardless of what type of prescription it is, we're hoping that these remedies will be able to provide us with some sort of healing with whatever conditions that we have. And recipe, RX actually stands for like recipe. I already said that. So anyways, with that being said, this comes again from the planet Jupiter, because Jupiter is about benefits. It's the frequency of God. It's hopefulness, okay? We're hoping to heal. We're taking something in. Now, in astrology, when a planet is retrograde, it's actually considered to be difficult, but it's like with that difficulty, there's a benefit. We do receive gifts from it if we use it properly. It's actually karmic. Usually in a past life or something, we might have overused the energy or we didn't use it enough. So now we came here in this lifetime with some sort of malfunction with that energy. The thing is that this energy is very potent. That's why it's basically a prescription, because that energy becomes like a drug, because what happens is it becomes internalized. So we're less able to externalize it. And then when it does become externalized, it's abundant, and it's usually kind of comes out extreme. So, or it comes out like weird, or like something about it is just a little bit off to the typical balance system that we have here. So, I just want to mention the retrograde stuff, most especially because Mercury's going to be going into retrograde on July 7th, I believe. And then also because a lot of things may seem similar in astrology to maybe other fields of other practices that are more conventional. But understand that like all these fields of study, they all are backed and supported by occult knowledge, meaning they're all backed and supported by things like spiritual practices and whatnot. But yeah, so a lot of the stuff we know are backed and supported by this ancient knowledge, this occult knowledge. And with that being said, retrogrades are basically so it's an illusion, right, that the planet is going backwards. But really, it's in a state of stagnation, and it's not moving as quickly as it's not orbiting as quickly as it was before, or as it should be. And what this does, it means that that energy becomes internalized in us. So what happens is when we go out to externalize the energy, it's usually off in some way. Usually the disruption of the retrograde planets, it occurs from emotions, too much emotions influencing the processing and functioning of that planetary energy. So it's like it goes back, whatever planet someone has retrograde, or if a planet is in retrograde, if it's transiting in retrograde, what happens is that energy, it goes, in our minds at least, it gets processed backwardly. It goes back in the past and it extracts the emotions from the past, and this distorts the current perspective of what's going on within that energy. So the emotions basically cloud the perspective of that planet. The planet becomes cloudy, and think about it, when there's too much fog and too much mist around our space, it's hard to see clearly as to what's going on. So it reduces the clarity of that energy and you become unsure, and this basically reduces the confidence of the energy. But the thing is that because of this, we normally don't want to act upon it, so then it becomes very potent and it becomes internalized within us. And then when we gain the courage or whatever, if the planet gets activated during a special time, we end up being overly expressive of that energy, or we can really just be more superior in that energy compared to other people. It's because it's potent and it's internalized. Now, on the other hand, some people have planets retrograde, and what happens is they may be too extreme with the energy. They may be too impulsive because they don't have clarity, and this lack of clarity makes them just say, like, screw it, I'm gonna just do whatever I want, and they can be too impulsive with the energy, and then this causes a lot of regrets. And this is where, you're gonna come back in the next lifetime with double the karma, because now you already received the karma in this lifetime, and you still messed up that retrograde planet. So I don't know, next lifetime we probably gonna have double retrogrades and stuff. But pretty much that's what retrograde planets are. I can give a couple examples. I'll do Jupiter retrograde because I have Jupiter retrograde. So when somebody has Jupiter retrograde, this means that the belief system that the person has and their confidence and the benefits that they can receive, and the benefits that they can even give out to others, it becomes internalized. So it means that the person ends up not really being confident. A lot of times they can just kind of hold back on their belief system. They can hold back on communicating things about themselves in a more inflated way. So basically it's backwards. So the person may downplay the stuff they do. They may not be so, it's hard to explain, but it's like they may not be so, you know how there's people who like they'll overly characterize themselves, like they'll give themselves too, I don't know why I'm missing the words for it, but it's like there's people that they will exaggerate like their benefits. They'll exaggerate things that they've done in life and whatnot. And then there's other people who they hold back. So it makes the person extra modest. And I have Jupiter in retrograde in Virgo, and Virgo's already a sign of being modest. So then the Jupiter energy even makes it more modest. So then when it comes time when my Jupiter gets activated, I become too confident, too extreme. I start calling myself a guru. Anything that has to do with confidence and optimism, I've held back on it for so long that when it gets activated, it all just comes out at one time and it becomes extreme. So that's usually how these planets work. Now, on a physical level, like in terms of how this can affect the body, is Jupiter could cause like weight gain. It can cause swelling, like maybe extra water retention or something like that within the body. And Jupiter is connected to like the hips and thighs. So I mean, I have it in Virgo, so in Virgo is like this sign of like purifying. So a lot of times I do take in like a lot of water during a lot of times. Like that's why I drink so much water, because like if I eat too much food that has salt in it and whatnot, I do tend to like hold it in sometimes. But then there's random times where it just like I'll be peeing all night for no reason, and it just be like, and it must be because I got Jupiter retrograde in Virgo. But Jupiter also has to do with like knowledge and wisdom too. So this often means that I tend to hold back the knowledge and wisdom that I have. And then it can all come out during one time, which I think the videos kind of could show where that was expressed. And yes, I had a transit to Jupiter at the time. I had Jupiter transiting my... So another example would be, let's do like a Mars retrograde. Somebody who has Mars retrograde, what happens is the impulse nature, the sexual desires, the passions of the person, the willpower becomes internalized, and the person's less able to go after the things that they want. They tend to hold back. Usually something in the past occurred where when they express these energies of going after what they want, they might have became embarrassed, or they might have faced just a situation that was less beneficial. And now as a result, there's like a fear being associated with going after the things that they want. So then what happens usually is a lot of times when we hold these energies back, I wanted to mention too that we'll attract other people who are expressing these energies, because whatever you internalize, you end up, by law of attraction, we attract it on the outside anyway. So then what happens is these people become like, with the person with Mars retrograde, they can become very resentful of the people around them that are going after these desires and passions of theirs and willpowers, which seem to be similar to theirs, but they weren't able to do it themselves. And then what happens is they can either want to help them and try to control them in those passions, and it can switch, or they can just kind of like become resentful of those people. So then it becomes hard for these people to maintain relationships, because what they don't notice is that they're not being like a friend anymore. They become like competitive with their friends because there's a resentment, because they can't express their desires and passions themselves. And then on the flip side, what can happen is they can become overly competitive. So people with Mars retrograde, they could become overly competitive. They could become overly passionate. They may go after everything they want with no respect, with no regard for others and their surroundings. And then so this would be the extreme that it would go through. And usually these things switch. The expression of it switches. In addition to that, people with Mars retrograde, they can experience inflammation within the body. The body could just become inflamed. Like they can have maybe heartburn, anything like, their joints could swell up or something from too much, because there'll be too much of the fire element being stuck and internalized in the body somewhere. So that would be an example of maybe like somebody who would have Mars retrograde. Let's do Saturn retrograde. Somebody with Saturn retrograde, what can often happen is when it comes time to be responsible, to take charge over certain things, when it's necessary, these people may fail to do so. They may not be in the right vibration to take on responsibilities or to take charge in situations where leadership is needed, where giving direction to others is needed. And then in times when it's not necessary to be bossy, it's not necessary to be directive or to take charge, they tend to overly do that. They tend to overly take charge, overly direct, overly regulate things. And then what can happen is it just causes like distastefulness amongst the people that they're working around or amongst their home environment, because it's like, why are you randomly acting like this now? It's like a wrong timing with Saturn retrograde. They do things at the wrong time, and so and then what can happen is Saturn creates obstacles. So then what would happen is they would get obstacles inside of their body as well as outside. So it's like whenever they want to go after something too, what can happen is some sort of obstacle will pop up that prevents them from being able to do what they wanted to do, because they waited too long to do it, or they're doing it too early before it's time. And then another thing could happen is that their body could get very, like, there could be like, for some reason, a stiffness to their like spine and their back, maybe because they're some sort of stiffness to their spine or their back, maybe because there's something's wrong with their calcium levels or something, because Saturn's connected to like bone density and calcium, so it's like something could be wrong with their bone density, or maybe they'll get some extra cholesterol or something like that in their blood vessels, and this prevents their circulation from, you know, running properly. So I don't want to do all the signs, but unless it's requested. But for now, this is just like a little bit of like another perspective of how these retrograde planets work. I see like a lot of websites and stuff, and the normal explanation for it is that it appears like it's going backwards and it's internalized. But I really studied this out to see how it plays out, and most of the time, it's some sort of distortion of reality that occurs within that planetary energy based upon past experiences that were not pleasant, and therefore the energy becomes stagnant, it becomes potent because it's internalized, and this could be disruptive to the body and disruptive to the person's actions in the external world. And then because they can hold back on that energy so much, then it can switch on the other extreme where the energy comes out in abundance and it comes out too much and it overflows. And it can also just, anything that's extreme, for some reason people are just like uncomfortable with it, it's too much, so then it just causes problems in that kind of way. And then it does the same thing to the body's functioning as well, in the health. So hopefully this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. Blessings, light, and love. Peace, y'all.